Alright, we are starting here with the pistol version, and this is comparable size to the 3-shot version. One of the key concepts here is that the projectiles are mated to the rails themselves, so they cannot come off, similar to how a bullet operates in the barrel of a gun. And this greatly helps in terms of the accuracy. Otherwise the projectiles would tend to just go all over the place. And as you can see here, that the projectiles snugly fit in that rail. Even holding it, it cannot leave the rail. And here we have the two projectiles that I've tested these devices with. We have the smaller projectile on top, which is about 130 grain, and then the larger projectile on the bottom, and that one is 220 grain. And then here is the modular string system used. We have these string holders that can pop into a device like this, and that way they can be transferred from device to device. They're very easy to pop in and pop out. And now just to demonstrate the loading of a single shot device, so we have this 3D printed tool that we find the rail on the device and then put it on the ground, just push down really hard. This particular device takes about 30 pounds of force to load. And then typically most of the devices I use are larger. This is really pushing the limits of what can be done with simple plastic. Once the device is loaded, then you take the projectile, drop it down, put it on the rail, and then drop it down completely, aim, and fire. And finally, here we are at the triple device, and the first step when pulling this thing out of storage is to string up all the lines. And so here I'm putting the strings in the slots and then just making sure that everything is even. So the strings are all centered. Now the next step is that you have to make sure all the nuts are in the position to where they're ready to accept the string. And so that's what I'm doing here. You only really have to do this once, because after you fire the device, the nuts will always be in the right position. But getting them into the position the first time is a bit tricky. And so here you see I'm having to reach inside and kind of pull the teeth of the nut forward as I pull the trigger back. Now the next step is to load the device, and we do this with a 3D printed tool. This is going to take a bit longer because I normally do this not for the camera, so the angle and everything is a bit weird. This takes about 25 pounds of force to load. It's not quite as strong as the single shot device that I showed earlier, just for the sake of reliability. And so you'll see here I'm finding the different tracks and pushing the string all the way down using the tool. And now each string is actually loaded. And so the next step is to actually load the projectiles. And what I do here is I take the projectiles and I put them just a little bit on the track, just so that they're balanced there, but not actually push them down all the way. And the reason I do that is just for safety. In case it misfires, the projectiles won't really have any velocity. And so loading up the third projectile right here. And then what I do is I take the device, and as I bring it up and get it ready to fire, I will tilt it and fully load all the projectiles that way, and then aim using the sight and fire 3 times. 1, 2, 3.